sort of a surreal story. I did an all-nighter at work, and I woke up like drooling on my laptop, whatever, and I had to go to New Hampshire to visit a friend at Dartmouth, and it was like a 2-hour drive up I-89. It had to be the most boring, utterly the most boring highway in New England, I think. And I, naturally I fell asleep at the wheel, and it's not like you just nod off. There's no like nodding off. You just one day you're listening to Gypsy Kings, the next minute you're basically rolling off a 100-foot embankment. And when I say you, I mean me. And like I at the time I was like rolling off the embankment, and I think. I don't make the best decisions when I first wake up and I'm driving, and I turn right, and I'm like 45 degrees left. And I turn right, and that's like Dukes of Hazzard recipe for like how to roll a car. So I roll and I roll, and I take like a bunch of rolls down the embankment, and I end up at the bottom, and I end up like upright. It's like kind of miraculous, you know. And I know, and so I get out. I turn off the Gypsy Kings, and. And I get out, and I'm just covered in glass, I'm bleeding and all this stuff, and like half the car is like missing, you know, like most of it is like not even there. If somebody was with me, they would be dead, but they would have kept me awake maybe. Anyway, I'm like cursing. I'm seriously cursing. Sorry, kids. I'm like cursing and cursing, and these three kind of angelic girls. And I'm going to tell you now, they're Catholic girls. And how did I know? They were just crossing themselves. There's three high school girls coming from the top of the embankment, and I just see them coming down. And so I stop cursing, and they're crossing themselves, and they are speaking this sort of surreal language. It's a very surreal. In fact, if you could just imagine this whole thing with a haze of surrealism, that would be helpful. And I'm just sort of, like stop, and they're speaking this strange language to me, and they start. It's like this ubby-dubby language from Zoom, if anybody remembers that language, where you add like an extra syllable to the word, and so they're saying like instead of God they'd say good-a-dod, and instead of like they'd say this is the sentence: hit-a-dee, what-a-does, blit-a-dest, but-a-die, good-a-dod, which means he was blessed by God, because it's a miracle that I am like alive. And if you look at this stretch of I-89, there's nowhere else in this stretch of I-89 that I could have done this maneuver without running into an enormous cliff, 100 trees, or whatever. Like, I should not be alive. So they're like, we're going to rescue you. We're going to take you to our grandmother's house. So I'm, oh, thank you, sure. And I get in their car, and we drive. And they keep speaking this language. And I finally lean forward, and I'm like, I can understand you. I watch Zoom, right? So they're like, it's very funny. So and they're, oh, well, we're trying not to use the Lord's name in vain. And I said, well, I don't think when you say he's blessed by God, that's in vain. Anyway, so I didn't, whatever. So we drive for like almost an hour. And I'm like, where are we? I lean forward again. I'm like, where are we going? What is happening here? And they're, oh, we're going to our grandmother's house. Well, she lives like in the middle of absolutely nowhere. She lives in this trailer, like in the middle of nothing. And we drive forever. And we finally get there. We pull into the trailer. The grandmother goes out. She like shrieks because I'm bleeding. Like I'm like this guy covered in blood. And I'm like, can I just use your phone, please? And I make a phone call. She hands me a towel. I'm washing off the blood. And I am not kidding. Here come the swears. This is what the conversation sounded like. I said, hi. My name's Ben. I drove off I-89 in Bradford, New Hampshire, and this is what the guy says. This is the cop on the other end of the line. He says, "You're the one! You're the fucking idiot! You should have stayed with the car! We've been looking for your dead body for an hour!" So I'm like bleeding, right? So I look at the guy, I don't look at him, and I say, "Look, buddy, I'm bleeding. Like I like just had an accident here, and you don't need to treat me like that, And I'm trying to explain to him, and I look at these three Catholic girls who are looking at me so nicely, and I think about trying to explain to them that these extra syllable sect of this Catholic church living in the woods, and so it's taken me a while to get back to you. I'm sorry. And he says, I'll be right there. And he comes. He takes about an hour to get here because it took an hour. And then can I make one more phone call? He takes me to the station. I make a phone call. I call my father. And I'm thinking my father's going to give me the same. My father's kind of critical. And I figure he's going to say the same thing, like, you fucking idiot, whatever. Instead, he says, are you okay? Wow, it's my dad here? And he says, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm all right. He says, I'll be right there. 2 hours. This guy has to drive to get me, and he comes and gets me, and comes and picks me up. Of course, he meets the evil policeman who says, your son's a fucking idiot, whatever. And I'm thinking, oh, there's something they can agree on. But my dad says, that guy's kind of a jerk. And I was like, you're right, he is. Well, he says, well, what are you going to tell your sister? And I didn't really tell you guys this part because I thought it would make a good punchline. It turns out it wasn't my car. So it's my sister's car, and the last time I saw her was at her wedding, and she's now on her honeymoon in Guatemala. And I'm like, okay, I'll be done in a sec. And I tell my dad, like, well, so I wine and dine them, and I take them back, and I say, like, okay, here you go. I give them $2,000 extra and the insurance, and they buy a fantastic new car, and they never let me drive it. Thank you.